Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a Skred Red update. I'm not going to show any gameplay for this. I just went 4-1 in a Modern League with the Skred build that you're seeing right here. I've changed back to a Big Red Skred, if that makes sense. So there's a few ways to build Skred. One of is a more mid-range route. Another one is a more aggressive route with Chandra's Phoenix. And then there is this route that's more of the control route, the Big Red Skred deck that runs a lot of the higher end cards. And you have a lot of options for those cards. There's cards like Thundermaw Hellkite. There are cards like even the other dragon, the Stormbreath Dragon, that you can run when Lingering Souls is a pain. And that way those clear Lingering Souls tokens. Or any other flying base deck. That's when those particular cards are good. Right now, I'm back to the Wurmcoil Engine because there are a lot less white decks than there normally is in the metagame, and therefore I'm not as worried about Path to Exile as I usually am with Wurmcoil Engine. A lot of the premier removal right now is going to be Terminate, and Maelstrom Pulse, and Lightning Bolt, and Abrupt Decay, and Wurmcoil Engine dodges some of those, and then the cards like Kolaghan's Command and the Terminate, you're going to get a lot of value out of the Wurmcoil Engine dying. So that's why I have a 2 of in the main board, is really just for the Jund match. It's still kind of an awkward card. I don't know if 23 lands is too low, but we do have a lot of ways to cycle through our deck, and we're actually running 4 Mind Zones to try to get the Goblin Dark-Dwellers and the costs out quicker than they normally do. So Skred is still centered around trying to have a main board way to shut down particular combo decks like Blood Moon, shuts down any sort of greedy mana base, and Relic of Progenitus shuts down any deck that is trying to use their graveyard. Jund actually suffers from both of these. Relic of Progenitus shuts down Tarmogoyf and Scavenging Ooze, and Kolaghan's Command to a point. Grixis as well gets hit by Snapcaster Mage and Kolaghan's Command. The Relic does a great job versus it. So you just have main board, and against any other deck you can just cycle it away. The creature-based decks have a hard time versus Skred because you're running 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Skreds, the namesake card of the deck, that really is better each turn. So turn 1 it can kill a 1/1, turn 2 it can kill a 2/2, turn 3 a 3/3, turn 4 it can kill a 4/4, and then it just keeps scaling. So it's actually really good. Like, I've killed a Sun Titan with the Skred before, I've killed Nelish Norn with the Skred before, just to give you some examples of how well it scales. And it always scales at just 1 mana, so that's why I really like Skred. There are some Skred decks that use Skred to hit their own Boros Reckoner. I don't like those versions. Boros Reckoner gets killed by everything in the format: Abrupt Decay, Maelstrom Pulse, Terminate, Lightning Bolt, Path to Exile. Like, you get 0 advantage out of Boros Reckoner. It's a terrible card in Modern. I see a lot of these Skred versions. I really question when they use that. I mean, they use it as kind of a roadblock, and it's good versus like very, very few decks. It's even not that great versus Zoo when it just gets bolted or helixed. And even if you kill one of their cards with the Boros Reckoner after that, you still feel behind, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Boros Reckoner build. Usually when I'm running any 3-drops, it's going to be the Chandra's Phoenix. The card is phenomenal when control is big, and it's good when Jund isn't using heavy exile spells like Anger of the Gods, and then when we aren't using Anger of the Gods as well, and using more of a Volcanic Fallout build, that's when I like the Chandra's Phoenix. But as of now, in the metagame with tons of Jund, tons of Temur, and tons of Grixis that are really preying on the clunky combo base decks and all-in base decks, that like all-in creature base decks, I consider Jund, Temur, and Grixis all very, very similar to what they're trying to do. They're kind of these tempo-based decks that are trying to, can be very aggressive, but also are kind of the mid-range control type build. Jund does it through Thoughtseize and Inquisitions, and then landing a Tarmogoyf, and then landing a Liliana, and then they have a lot of other control-based cards like Lightning Bolts, Terminates, Abrupt Decays. Grixis does it by establishing either a Delver or a young Pyromancer or a Tassiger or an Angler, and then they try to wipe the board and counter. So that's the advantage of Grixis, is they get some counter spells. And Temur tries to do a little less control with only Lightning Bolt being the ability to kind of switch gears and go bolt to the face. And then they use Tarmogoyf and Snapcaster Mages, and then they can still use like Young Pyromancer. But the main thing with Temur is just more of a faster, more card advantage route through a lot of their cards. So all of them attack the game very similarly. They want to keep your threats off the board while establishing their threats. Skred does very well against all of them. I think Jund is the hardest one out of all of those. Grixis can be a little bit of a pain when they sideboard properly. One of the cards that is very hard for Skred to deal with is Keranos, God of the Storms. It's insanely hard for Skred to deal with. And since Grixis hasn't been playing it lately, it was more in a Twin build than anything. Like, Twin was so bad versus Skred game 1, and then game 2 and game 3, when they sided out all their Twin combos and sided in their hate cards, it got kind of rough. It was probably about 60-40 game 1, and then opposite 40-60 game 2 and 3 in Twin's favor. But Grixis suffers a lot more that they don't really have as much of a sideboard package to side out. They often keep in Delvers and Young Pyromancers and Tassigers and things like that. And this deck does very well. Skred is incredibly good against Angler and Tassiger, as eventually you're going to be able to hit them with a Skred that can take those out. So then we have the Pyrite Spellbombs are just a cyclable. Is that a word? Cyclable? Card that you can either kill off an early bird or you can sack it to draw a card. So it allows you to play the low land count. Morton, who's the god of the Skred, who is part of the rogue deck builder, he does a lot of brewing with me, and he's basically your go-to guy with Skred. He actually doesn't like Pyrite Spellbombs. I know that. Sometimes they're in sideboards, but he's usually running different cards here and less Mind Stones, and he really likes Hangerback Walker and Pia and Kiran Nalaar. I have not been a fan of Hangerback Walker. Every time I've played it, even if it just gets bolted and I get a 1/1 flyer back, it's not the best card. I'm just not a fan. And my own Anger of the Gods hurts my own Hangerback Walker. Same thing with Pia and Kiran Nalaar. I do have one in the sideboard, but it's one of those cards I don't really like with a heavy Anger of the Gods Volcanic Fallout version, Goblin Dark-Dwellers. There's not room for Goblin Dark-Dwellers and Pia and Kiran Nalaar. Speaking of Goblin Dark-Dwellers, it just works very well. There's Lightning Bolts, Skreds, Roasts, Anger of Gods, Volcanic Fallouts, plenty of targets for Goblin Dark-Dwellers, but where this card really shines is with Molten Rains. When you go up against a deck, I love Molten Rain versus Tricolor decks. I'll bring Molten Rains in and play the Molten Rain Goblin Dark-Dweller package, and I've shut down, I think it was a blue-white deck Thopter. Yeah, it was a Thopter deck I played against that Molten Rain very good against. Just shut down there, kept putting him back a land, and then I'd go up and count, and then establish like a threat like a Koth that they had to deal with, and then finally just get rid of all their mana leaks and cryptics and whatnot. And then Goblin Dark-Dwellers comes out and hits a Molten Rain. Then they have to deal with the Goblin Dark-Dwellers and their card out of their hand, and then rinse and repeat. So Wurmcoil is actually pretty decent versus the heavy control Supreme Verdict decks too, because it leaves back a 3/3. It's really in here for Jund though. If Jund is going to see less play, I'll take the Wurmcoil Engines out. It's a way that Wurmcoil Engine can keep up with Liliana, Kolaghan's Command, Dark Confidant type value. Wurmcoil is a pain. They have to have like another Terminate or Maelstrom Pulse to deal with it, because the Lightning Bolts and Abrupt Decays are not very good. Kolaghan's Command's okay because they kill it, and you get 2 3/3s, and they get back a card out of their graveyard like a Confidant or a Tarmogoyf, but you're still left with a 3/3 Death Toucher that you usually have to Abrupt Decay or Lightning Bolt. Otherwise, you're going to kill one of their cards. The other card I'm really liking as a one of in here is a Chandra Flamecaller. This has seemed like my fourth Anger of Gods / Volcanic Fallout to sweep, and you can actually get it out very quickly with a Koth. So you can go turn 2 Mind Stone, turn 3 Koth, and you have 3 red sources with Koth, and then turn 4 you can just -2 Koth and add 8 mana to your mana pool and drop a Chandra and kill something. So there is that. And yeah, sometimes Koth you need to, a lot of mistakes with Skred players is they don't utilize that -2. The -2 is also very good with Wurmcoil Engine. And I've also used it to chain out, like I've cast 2 Goblin Dark-Dwellers in the same turn with Koth. When you just know that Koth is not going to be able to ult. That's the goal of Skred, is to ultimate Koth. There's very few decks that can survive an ultimate. And then I still like the one of Chandra Pyromaster. It's just our card advantage here. The 1 damage is relevant. I like this card a lot more when I run the Chandra's Phoenix, because it's a way to keep recurring Chandra's Phoenix. But with the heavy Anger Gods and Relic of Progenitus, the Chandra's Phoenix is out of the question. Plus Scavenging Oozes in the opposing Jund list are just really, really keeping me from playing them at the moment. I actually do like Chandra's Phoenix against Jund. Not when they're running 3 Scavenging Oozes though. Most Jund lists are up to 3 of them. And because Living End is still a deck. Mana base, I'm running just 2 Scrying Sheets and a ton of Skreds. And nothing too fancy there. So Sideboard. Sideboard is very, very adjustable depending on your metagame. Right now, I've opted to run Molten Rain because there's a lot of tricolored greedy mana bases right now. You can run Boil if you have a lot of Merfolk in your match. So you can also run Rending Volley if Merfolk is in the match, as it can't be countered. So it's a way to get around the Kiran Glass Spinner. As Kiran Glass Spinner says, counter the first spell that is cast that targets one of your creatures. Well, Rending Volley cannot be countered, so it just kills it. But Volcanic Fallout and Anger do pretty good versus Merfolk. And I don't think there's a point to Rending Volley right now. It can take care of some Death and Taxes lists. It can take care of... It was really in there for Twin. And now that there's no such thing as Twin, well, there kind of is. I guess he gets rid of the Restoration Angel, which is getting pretty popular in these Abzan company decks and Kiki Cord company decks that are running a few... Well, they're actually running like 3 Restoration Angels, and that card is very annoying. That was the only loss with this deck was actually against Kiki Cord, and both games established Courser Krufix City. I won game 1, and then game 2 and 3, he got out early Coursers off of Noble Hierarchs, and Courser was a pain for this deck before it started getting advantage. Man, I have the worst luck versus Coursers lately. Every time they've cast a Courser, they hit with the land. Every turn, it just puts them up so much card advantage. So... yeah, I don't know. But, of course, the Rending Volley doesn't hit the Courser. The Roast does. Roast is an addition I just barely put in. I moved an Anger of the Gods over to the sideboard. Actually, Volcanic Fallout to the sideboard and cut a Pia and Kiran Nalaar to fit another Roast into the main board. So that'll give me an option versus Courser. The Vandalblast and Shattering Sprees are in here for affinity. Or there's Lantern Controls. Lantern Control is a joke for this deck. It's pretty easy to beat. They have a hard time versus... a lot of these cyclable cards like Mindstone and Pyrite Spellbombs to help it so they can't lock you out. And they have to keep Koth off his ult. They do that through like Pithing Needles. Chandra Pyromaster is a pain. So is Chandra Flamecaller for Lantern Control, because then you can just stockpile a bunch of cards and then discard all the cards in your hand and draw that many cards, +1. And that's rough for Lantern Control to deal with. And even Goblin Dark-Dwellers is fine. If they've... have Ensnaring Bridge, you have ways to deal with it, and then they have to find a way to kill the Goblin Dark-Dwellers. And they don't have a lot of options once that Ensnaring Bridge is taken care of. Pia and Kiran Nalaar is also decent versus the deck because you can have direct damage to the face. So I burned out the Lantern Control. They beat me game 1, and then game 2 and 3s, it was not even close. I think one of the games was a Blood Moon and then Molten Raining their basics is what happened. And it locked him out of specific colors. They did. Lantern Control uses a lot of, basically just a lot of colorless spells, but they do need some colored mana. And I was able to Shattering Spree or Vandalblast all their artifacts, can't remember which, and their Glimmer Void died, which was quite hilarious. So their Mox Opal's Glimmer Void, and then everything else was like Blood Moon and Molten Rain, and they couldn't cast anything in their hand, and got up to the point where I could start attacking in with Koth tokens and whatnot, or the lands. So Lantern is pretty easy with the deck. Living End, you have mainboarded ways to destroy. Living End can actually be kind of a tough match because they can actually fight through a relic, which is annoying. But Anger's decent because Anger, if you cast like double Anger in a turn, it can exile their cards, or Lightning Bolt and Anger can get rid of one of their bigger guys. So last but not least is the Dragon's Claw. When red is a bigger threat, I usually even put in like a Sun Droplet. So it's like 4 Dragon's Claws and a Sun Droplet because I do want to hit that gain life card. And I don't know. Blood Moon's good versus Naya Burn, though. You can lock him out with Blood Moon. Anger's good. Volcanic Fallout, I usually take out. But Anger is really good versus their Goblin Guides and their Swift Spears and Eidolons. Lightning Bolts and Skreds are also good for taking care of those early threats. Pyrite Spellbomb is actually pretty good as well, when they bring in like Core Firewalker to try to have a way. That's really, Pyrite Spellbomb is in here for Core Firewalker and Arc Champion as well. I thought about running a one of Kozilek's Return. I just prefer Volcanic Fallout with the uncounterable ability, because there's a lot of young Pyromancer decks right now, and so Volcanic Fallout's very, very good. It's also decent versus Collected Company decks. Anger is better against those because there's a lot of 3 toughness cards, and it just exiles them. So that's why I'm a heavy Anger build. at the moment. Just a ton of collected companies. It's better versus Jund too. You kill a lot more cards with Anger and then just exile them. Kalitas is starting to get annoying in Jund too, so that's the one of Roast is nice for that. But we have lots of ways to sweep them. So Pia and Kiran Nalaar will just go in versus decks where Anger and Volcanic Fallout's not good. It provides you a little more aggression. And that's that. So that's just the deck tech. I can show the videos if you guys are interested. I still have them in my history. With, I think, just going down the deck list that the matches I played Jund, I played Grixis, I played Lantern Control, lost to Kiki Cord, and then beat a Zombie Dredge deck that you can look at the deck tech on my Market Monday. So that's just, I might play some matchups here. Again, I'm pretty busy right now. Oh, speaking of which, Wednesdays I'm going to try to get to your deck list that you submitted. So if you ever want to submit me a deck, this is going to take a ton of work from you, but I'm just going to do a video. So you can come watch my responses on a YouTube video. I'm just going to copy and paste all your deck lists and kind of make community submitted decks, and then we'll go over most of them. I don't know if I had 35, I believe. Yeah, 35 people last week submit decks, so it's very hard. I've received them. I've looked at most of them, but I haven't had time to respond back to any of them. I've responded to a few of them, and nothing. If I didn't respond to yours particularly, it's just because I don't have time to do so. But I'm going to try to do that every Wednesday. Every Wednesday will just be community day, and I'll go through your deck list. Also, Greg and I are working on a planar format. We're going to write up the stipulations, I guess, in the Rogue Deckbuilder website and have it on the sidebar there. Once I get around to doing that, I'll try to write an article for it. I'm going to try to get some other personalities involved, and we're going to try the planar format, which is really just using cards from the old Innistrad blocks with cards from the new Innistrad blocks and having a little tournament. We're going to open that up for the community, probably do it for the Rogue Master Brewer to try to get some excitement for that planar format. As well as we're also going to be pushing for a lot of Rogue Deckbuilder playmat sales. I'm going to try to do a competition where you can win either specifically signed cards from some of my personalized decks, or we have some other gear you can win by taking a picture of you playing with your playmat at like a local game store or at a Grand Prix or at a PTQ or something like that, where you just take a picture and then we'll have you entered into a raffle. Just want to get the whole community spirit out for the Rogue Deckbuilder community. Also, we are looking for a social media manager. I need to go back. Some people submitted some resumes last time around when I was looking for a social media person to kind of run just the edit articles and really just share on social media. I'm going to go back and see if I can find those resumes. We just weren't quite ready for it. But Greg and I have really started to update the website. If you notice, we've made the brand look a lot cleaner. The Twitter, the Facebook page, the YouTube chat. You might notice some icon changes and whatnot. So we're getting serious with this. We also have some, if you're interested in buying booster boxes, we just got approved through Wizards to sell online. United States only, unfortunately. Can't ship them overseas. But we've got a bundle up where $140 can get you a Shadows or Innistrad box plus a Rogue Deckbuilder playmat. That is shipping is included in that. That is only the offer is only good for United States residents, as Wizards does not allow me to ship sealed product overseas or even to Canada. So unfortunately, if you want to buy a playmat, it's still open for international people. It's just the shipping's a little bit more expensive than here in the States. And if you are interested in like sealed product, we're going to have access to that. Again, I highly suggest you buy from your local game store to support them, but I'm never going to start a Patreon or Kickstarter. I keep having people like ask me, but start a Patreon, I'll be a supporter. I just don't like the idea of Patreon. I'm sorry. It's just something that support me by going to my sponsors. Support me by buying a playmat. Support me by buying a t-shirt when we give a t-shirt. These are all something that you can, it's something that helps me even exponentially more, because you're advertising for me at your local game store. Basically, they're like, oh, what's that playmat? Oh, Rogue Deckbuilder, go check him out. And you get a nice little playmat. So you get something, I get something. Everyone benefits from that. Other than Patreon, it just feels like, I don't know, maybe you get some quality out of watching my videos or whatnot. I just feel so selfish if it's just like, donate me money because I make YouTube videos. That's just, it's not my cup of tea. I'm going to try to get some, I want to go through sponsorships and whatnot. Speaking of which, just real quick here. If you're not interested in this whole schnab, I apologize for rambling here, but anywho, there's a lot of like outcry for the hashtag pay the pros. I am pretty much split on the whole pay the pros shenanigans right now. I really think it was kind of stupid of Wizards halfway through, where they've already promised people money, to say now you don't get the money. That is ridiculous. That's just typical Wizards of the Coast. If you haven't lost faith in Wizards of the Coast as like the more social aspect of it, I mean, we can just go down the list of the whole judges, the banning the judges, the banning specific players due to, I don't want to get into that stink again over like Zach Jesse type, that whole stink, or just the ostracizing people for writing particular articles against Wizards, or what's some other ones? The whole wah post by Trick Jared about the spoilers and how it hurts everyone, blah blah blah. Or they're going to start. It's up to our responsibility not to share something that we've this like Wizards has rubbed me the wrong way. Past 2 years, it seems like, at least on the social aspect of things, they've been on the wrong side of every issue. Almost every issue. I went to bat for them over their design team about they might as well take risks with Modern. You can always ban a card. Whoop-de-freaking-do. You ban a couple cards. It's not the end of the world. And I like the spicing up. I think the Eldrazi was a fun little time for Modern while it lasted. And now we banned it and we've moved on. And now it switches. It's all good. But with the pay the pros, I think Brian Kibler wrote the best article about that. I'll have to find it and link it. You can go to his blog. Just Google Brian Kibler and you'll find his blog. And he basically kind of echoes what I'm saying, is that being a professional Magic player, or Wizards, you're not entitled to anything from Wizards. I do still feel bad for all the people that just hit Platinum and now get a bunch of their salary, which is really what it is, taken away. But Wizards still incentivizes a lot of travel fee is still there. Travel fee's still there. You still get a $250 appearance. You still get all the perks of being Platinum. 3 buys at a Grand Prix. That's a huge advantage to actually cashing. And you get invites to all these tournaments that are now going to pay more. And so I think the math did add up. But the problem with the whole... I don't know where. I think that I'd rather have the pot spread more, which is how it's been doing right now with the appearance fees. Is basically if you get enough points, then you have this guaranteed amount of money. But a lot of these other high variance games have already. It was just the community that has kind of rallied or banded together. Like in poker, professional poker, what they do is the teams that practice together is they each get a stake in a person's winning. They're like, okay, I'll give you 5% stake if you give me 5% stake. So these like big conglomerates like Channel Fireball could easily do that, and then the average player in their team will still get a payout. Because a few of them are going to top 8. There's going to be a top 8 of these Pantheon teams or Channel Fireball teams or all these other teams that make it top 8, top 16, top 32. And that's the way that they get rid of their variance, is just the same way poker's done for ages, where each player on the team gets a stake in the whole prize pool. And it's just, I don't know. It's just rubbed me the wrong way with this whole hashtag pay the pros thing. Wizards is trying to promote the game. Hearthstone had a $500,000 or $1 million tournament. Dota has had $10 million tournaments. League of Legends has an obscene amount of tournaments. These huge prize pools draw crowds. And I think Wizards is trying to dip their toe into that. Yes, do I think they should have I don't think they should have not increased if they want a bigger tournament, I think that they should have increased the marketing money they put into it, rather than just decreased the payout from their Platinum players. I think that was pretty shady of them. That was a huge cut from $3,000 to $250. And I think it should have been somewhere in the middle. They need to figure out what is an acceptable wage or acceptable incentive to put people on their gold, silver, platinum plan. And then how much they can... it's grown exponentially. You can just tell just by how much the cards from Legacy and Modern and Commander have gone up in the past 2-3 years. That is just new demand. That's not old demand. That's not all of a sudden old players switching to those formats. That's new players transitioning from Standard over to the more Eternal formats. and we can see just how much these sets have grown. And there's Wizards is rolling around in cash, so there's no reason they can't be like League of Legends and Dota and all these ones that have held these huge tournaments. They have the capital for it, and it's just sad that Wizards hasn't been able to provide that pro scene like all these other games have done. So again, I'm split on the whole pay the pros. Now I've rambled. I think this video is actually rambling more than it is a deck tech, but I hope that addresses at least my opinion. Again, my opinion does not matter. Thank you for the person that actually posted that on the comment sections. I get it. I'm just one person, but some people actually do value my opinion, and I like to talk. So there you go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this deck list. Let me know what you would add to your Skred list, and I'll try to put all the links what I've talked about in the description below. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.